Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we have a public hearing before the CNC Commission, or committee, and I would like to call the public hearing to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Trustees Del Rosario.
Here.
Hunley.
Here.
Klusny.
Here.
Nasty.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Reyes. Here. And Mayor Veenstra.
Here. If the secretary would please reference the public notice.
A public hearing will be held on the proposed Village of Addison budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year ending April 30th, 2026. The public hearing will be held on Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Addison Village Hall, 1 Friendship Plaza. All interested citizens attending the public hearing may provide written and oral comments and may ask questions regarding the entire budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. A copy of the entire proposed budget for the Village of Addison for the year ending April 30th, 2026 is available for public inspection in the Village Clerk's office prior to the public hearing, published in the Daily Herald on March 27, 2025.
Thank you. And item number 4 is petitioner's presentation. Colleen?
Thank you, Mayor Veenstra. So the budget continues to be a collaborative effort by the village manager, all the department heads, and staff. Under the direction of the village board, the fiscal 2025-2026 budget continues to ensure the long-term financial health of the village funds. The general fund proposed total budgeted revenues are just under $50.8 million, and budgeted expenditures are just under $53.7 million. Although the expenditures are higher than anticipated revenues, we do have a healthy fund balance that we are intentionally drawing down from. We are projecting a 53% fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. This is in compliance with our fund balance policy. Remember, the expenditures in the general fund are to maintain the general operations of the village. The water sewer fund proposed total budgeted revenues are just over $27.4 million, and total budgeted expenditures are just over $26 million. We are projecting a 29% fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. In total, the fiscal 2025-26 proposed budget has $125,782,397 in revenues and $128,373,807 in expenditures. Although total budgeted expenditures are higher than the total budgeted revenues, the estimated fiscal 25 revenues are higher than the estimated fiscal 25 expenditures, leaving reserves to more than cover the budgeted deficit for the fiscal 26 budget. Of those total expenditures of $128.3 million, 55% is for operations. Operations are such things as personnel, services and charges, supplies and materials, that type of thing. 22% is for capital improvement projects, 3% is debt service, 5% is for police pension, and 15% is for interfund transfers. The budgeted expenditures for capital improvement projects do include just under $12.9 million in the water sewer infrastructure fund. A water sewer separation project accounts for approximately $8.2 million of the $12.8 million and will be partially funded with a $3 million grant. The remaining $4.7 million is for the phosphorus removal and plant consolidation project, which will be funded with home rule sales tax, an EPA fee, and a transfer from our water sewer as part of the operating budget. $5.6 million is in the MFT fund, which includes the annual road resurfacing program, several street maintenance projects, and additional funding allocated to our sidewalk program. One of the street projects will be partially funded with a CDBG grant of $300,000. $3.8 million is in the water sewer fund for our annual water main replacement program, in addition to the water main replacement tied to our road improvement projects. And lastly, $5.5 million is in our public building fund to include a fuel island replacement at the Public Works facility, a new generator at the Village Hall, HVAC at the Police Department, a remodel of one of our departments at Village Hall, and various other improvements at the Village Hall, at the Village facilities. The village's current financial condition is stable, and this proposed budget will keep us in compliance with our fund balance policy. The complete budget document will be available on the village website at addisonadvantage.org shortly after the beginning of the fiscal year, which is May 1st. Are there any questions at this time?
Okay. Moving on to staff input. There is none. Questions from the board? There is none. Questions from the audience? There is none. Positive testimony, negative testimony. That would leave the summation, and I think, Colleen, you've covered it very well at this point. So I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is closed.
Moving on to the combined meeting of the committees for Monday, April 7th. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Trustees Del Rosario.
Here.
Nasty.
Here.
Reyes. Here. Co-chairs Hunley.
Here.
Kluzny.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here. Item number 2 is consideration to approve the minutes of the March 17th, 2025 combined meeting of the committees.
Make the motion.
Any additions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Item number 3 is audience input regarding agenda items before the committee. We have none. Item number 4 is discussion of accounts payable. Earlier this evening, we reviewed the following directives. Directive number 25-68 in the amount of $451,779.91. Directive 25-69 in the amount of $478,027.58. Directive number 25-70 in the amount of $371,339.87, and Directive number 25-71 in the amount of $992,304.56. The gross payroll for March was $2,894,944.22. We also have 2 adjustments. Directive number 25-58, which was approved on February 3rd, 2025, in the amount of $477,690.85, is being reduced by $245, making the new total $477,445.85. Directive number 25-31, which was approved on October 7th, 2024, in the amount of $404,742.85, is being reduced by $1,692.61, making the new total $403,050.24.
Make the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is consideration to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the Village of Addison.
Make the motion.
Second. Thank you. Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the public hearing on the fiscal 25-26 budget has been completed and no further changes are anticipated, we are now seeking your formal approval of the fiscal 25-26 budget. For your review, the following documents were attached: the budget summary for all funds and the final budget reconciliation, which is a spreadsheet that outlines the transition from the budget reviewed by the board in February to the final version presented for your approval. Additionally, the fiscal 25-26 budget document has been emailed separately for your reference. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. We heard a great explanation of the budget at the public hearing. I have no further questions. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 is consideration of a resolution approving a service order form and an addendum to the master subscription agreement from Zendesk in the total cost of $21,025.03 for a 1-year professional license renewal Funding and account number 620.9962-4105.
Make the motion.
Thank you. Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a renewal of our software as a service cloud-hosted solution for our help desk system. The price has increased as we have increased the number of users. Since last year, we've included the ACDC operation managers and team leads. It's very effective, the communication between us and the vendors. Everything is tracked, consolidated. We get beautiful reports out of it, and we're able to track in a timely manner exactly what's going on with not only our service tickets, but also at the Consolidated Dispatch Center.
Very good. I have no questions on this item. I think it's definitely a needed item. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Item number 7 is consideration to approve the final payout request from R.W. Dunneman Company of Addison, Illinois, for construction of Phase 5 of the Village Green Improvement Project, Veterans Circle, in the amount of $116,610.08, bid number 23-2-2, funding in account number 470.9947-4536.
Make the motion.
Thank you. Don.
Thank you very much. This is the 10th and final payment to R.W. Dunteman Company of Addison for construction of phase number 5 of the Village Green Improvement Project, which is Veterans Circle. Can you tell the enthusiasm with this one? In the amount of $116,610.08. With your approval, this project will be complete, and staff recommends your consideration.
Thank you. It looks great. I'm glad to hear it's complete. Any questions from the committee?
When is Phase 6?
Remember that enthusiasm I had in my voice a second ago? It ain't there.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 8, consideration to award bid number 25-2-1 for parkway restorations to Serenity Landscape Group, Inc. of Villa Park, Illinois, in the unit pricing of $8 per square yard. Funding and account number 500.5010-4180, 500.5031-4180, and 100.2510-4180.
Make the motion.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On March 17th, we opened up bid 25-2-1 for parkway restorations, and we received a total of 4 bids for this service, with the lowest bid being from Serenity Landscape Group at the price of $8 per square yard. We've checked all of the references, which have come back favorable, and we have adequate funding in the 4180 accounts of the previous divisions that you mentioned before. So at this time, we're requesting your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. We've used this vendor before?
This vendor actually used to provide mowing services for
Okay.
us, so we are familiar with them through that.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, consideration to award bid 25-2-2 for spoils hauling and stone delivery to the Civi Group of Elgin, Illinois, and the unit pricing of $23 per ton of CA-6 delivered and $300 per semi-load hauled. Funding and account number 500.5010-4176, 500.5010-4207, and 500.5031-4299, and 500.5031-4176.
Make the motion.
Second.
Thank you. Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On March 17th, we received 3 bids for the hauling and proper disposal of excavated spoils and the delivery of grade CA6 gravel. The low bid was from the Civi Group at a price of $23 per ton for CA6 delivered and $300 per semi-load for spoils hauling. We've worked with Civi Group for the past several years and have been happy with the service that they've provided us. So at this time, we're requesting your approval to award this contract to the Civi Group. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions on this item. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10 is consideration of an ordinance approving an amendment to the real property exchange agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District.
Make the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attached is an ordinance approving the amendments to the exchange of property between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District. The original agreement included the exchange of multiple parcels, but a review from FEMA is actually delaying the closing of this. So for the village to move forward with the combined sewer separation project, we had to separate one of the parcels out for this, which is the parcel that we're going to receive from the Park District, which is 5 South Wisconsin. So by separating this, we're able to immediately close on it so we can move forward with this project. This agreement also identifies 7 trees that are on the Park District's property that we'll have to remove and replace for this project as well. Our village attorney put together this agreement, and it was passed by the Park District Board on March 18th, and at this time, we're requesting your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions on this item. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11 is consideration of an ordinance approving a utility easement agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District for Cherokee Park.
Make the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Attached is the proposed ordinance approving the permanent utility easement agreement for the Village of Addison and Cherokee Park. This easement will allow us to maintain and repair any stormwater issues that we have for the sewer separation project going in. Our village attorney has prepared this ordinance, and it was passed by the Park District again on March 18th, and at this time, we're requesting your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Item number 12 is audience participation regarding village business. We have none. Item number 13, executive session. We don't need one. Other business. I have none.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the regular village board meeting for Monday, April 7th to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustees Del Rosario.
Here.
Hunley.
Here.
Cluzny.
Here.
Nasty.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Reyes.
Here.
And Mayor Veenstra.
Here. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you please remain standing for the invocation. This evening it's going to be given by Pastor Dave Aycock of Messiah Baptist Church.
Let's pray. Father, as we come before you, we thank you for your grace. Lord, we know we live in tough times. We just pray that you give our board wisdom in the decisions they make that affect all of our lives. We thank you for Mayor Veenstra and the hard work he's done. And we pray for Tom as he comes in as the new mayor, that you would give him wisdom and grace. Bless this meeting, we pray, in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is the approval of the minutes of the March 17th village board meeting. Is there a motion?
Make the motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes stand approved. Item 5, proclamations, appointments, and presentations. We have none this evening. Item 6 is audience input regarding agenda items before the board. There is none. Item 7 is the consent agenda. 7A is approval of accounts payable.
Earlier this evening, the committee recommended approval of the following directives. Directive number 25-68 in the amount of $451,779.91. Directive 25-69 in the amount of $478,027.58. Directive 25-70 in the amount of $371,339.87. Directive number 25-71 in the amount of $992,304.56. The gross payroll for March was $2,894,944.22. We also have 2 adjustments. Directive number 25-58 was approved on February 3rd, 2025 in the amount of $477,690.85. It's being reduced by $245, making the new total $477,445.85. Directive number 25-31, which was approved on October 7th, 2024, in the amount of $404,742.85, is being reduced by $1,692.61, making the new total $403,050.24.
Thank you.
Motion? Sorry.
Item 7B is approval of the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the Village of Addison. 7C is approval of the final payout request from R.W. Dunham & Company of Addison, Illinois, for the construction of Phase 5 of the Village Green Improvement Project, Veterans Circle, in the amount of $116,610.08. Item 7D is approval to award bid 25-2-1 for Parkway Restoration to Serenity Landscape Group Incorporated of Villa Park, Illinois, in unit pricing of $8 per square yard. And 7E is the approval to award bid 25-2-2 for spoils hauling and stone delivery to the Civi Group of Elgin in the unit price of $23 per ton CA6 delivered and $300 per semi-load haul. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Trustees Del Rosario.
Yes.
Hunley.
Yes.
Cluzny.
Yes.
Nasty.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
And Reyes.
Yes.
The consent agenda is approved. Item 8, ordinances and resolutions. 8A is the second reading of an ordinance amending the Village of Addison budget document and appropriation ordinance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
At our meeting on March 17th, the committee reviewed this ordinance, which amends the Village of Addison budget document and appropriation ordinance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. The committee recommended approval, and first reading was given at the March 17th Village Board meeting. Second reading is requested.
This is second reading of an ordinance amending the Village of Addison budget document and appropriation ordinance for the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
Motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt the ordinance. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustees Del Rosario?
Yes.
Hunley?
Yes.
Kluzny?
Yes.
Nasty?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
And Reyes?
Yes.
The ordinance is approved. Next item, item B, first reading of an ordinance approving an amendment to the real property exchange agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District.
At our meeting earlier this evening, the committee reviewed this ordinance, which approves an amendment to the real property exchange agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District. The committee recommended approval, and first reading is requested.
This is first reading of an ordinance approving an amendment to the real property exchange agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District.
First reading.
First reading only. 8C is the first reading of an ordinance approving a utility easement agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District for Cherokee Park.
At our meeting earlier this evening, the committee reviewed this ordinance, which approves a utility easement agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District for Cherokee Park. The committee recommended approval, and first reading is requested.
This is first reading of an ordinance approving a utility easement agreement between the Village of Addison and the Addison Park District for Cherokee Park.
First reading.
First reading only. 8D is the consideration of a resolution approving a service order form and an addendum to the master subscription agreement from Zendesk in the total cost of $21,025.03 for a one-year professional licensing renewal.
At our meeting earlier this evening, the committee reviewed this resolution, which approves a service order form and an addendum to the master subscription agreement from Zendesk in the total cost of $21,025.03 for a one-year professional licensing renewal. The committee recommended approval, and the attorney is asked to read the resolution.
This is consideration of a resolution approving a service order form and an addendum to the master subscription agreement from Zendesk in the total cost of $21,025.03 for a one-year professional licensing renewal.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt the resolution. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustees Del Rosario?
Yes.
Hunley?
Yes.
Kluzny?
Yes.
Nasty?
Yes.
O'Brien?
Yes.
And Reyes?
The resolution is approved. Item 9, Mayor's Report. I do have a request for approval of a 24-hour liquor license for St. Philip the Apostle School for a fundraiser being held at the school on Saturday, April 12th. Is there a motion to approve?
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The request is approved. I also do have a proclamation this evening that proclaims April 13th through the 19th, 2025 as National Telecommunications Week. And if the attorney would please read that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a proclamation proclaiming April 13th through 19th, 2025 as National Telecommunicators Week. Whereas the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center plays a vital role in the protection of human life and property for Addison, Bensonville, Bloomingdale, Wooddale, Itasca, Westmont, Glendale Heights, Pleasant View Fire, Tri-State Fire, and the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. And whereas the Addison Police Communications Section has been successfully serving the public safety communication needs of Addison since 1960. And whereas while enduring long shifts and handling frequent life and death emergencies, Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center dispatchers set high standards in performing their duties in a dedicated, diligent, and compassionate manner. And whereas the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center dispatchers provide a critical communication link between the citizen and police, fire, and emergency medical service providers. And whereas the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center dispatchers efficiently coordinate emergency services to ensure the health and safety of our citizens, travelers, and tourists in our cities and towns 24 hours a day. And whereas the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center dispatchers are rarely visible to the public while performing an exceptional service that deserves praise and recognition. Now, therefore, Rich Veenstra, Mayor, along with the Addison Village Board, does proclaim April 13th through 19th, 2025 as National Telecommunicators Week in the Village of Addison, and commends the devotion, contribution, and services of the Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center dispatchers.
Thank you. And Chief Selwick, if you would give this to the staff at ACDC, and please give them our gratitude and thanks for doing such an outstanding job you're in, and we're very proud of them.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We have the director, deputy director, and several ACDC members here tonight to accept it. So thank you very much for your kind words.
Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. Okay, that moves us to officers' report. Village Attorney.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Village Manager.
Yes, we do have a report tonight for our residents, Mayor. Just a reminder for everyone that the village will be closed April 18th in observation of Good Friday. We will reopen for regular business hours on Monday, April 21st. That's it. Thank you.
And Village Clerk.
Yes, just a few things that are going on this Saturday. First off, we have our community recycling event at our Public Works Department, which is 1491 Jeffrey Drive, from 8 a.m. to noon. That is for village residents. Also, our historical museum will be hosting an open house on the same day, this Saturday, from noon to 4. And lastly, here at the Village Hall on Saturday, there will be a fine arts show from noon to 4 p.m. right here in the Rotunda. And that is all.
Thank you. Item 11 is commission and board reports. We have none this evening. 12 is executive session. We do not need one. 13 is audience participation regarding village business. I do understand that there are several people that do want to make a comment. I will ask our attorney to read the protocol for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone wishing to speak under the agenda item entitled Audience Participation Regarding Village Business or comments from the public regarding village business shall adhere to the following procedural rules. A person shall be permitted to speak upon being recognized by the mayor. The person should stand, if possible, approach the podium, and announce his or her name before commencing. All comments under audience participation regarding village business or comments from the village regarding village business are limited to 3 minutes, and each person shall only be permitted to speak once. All speakers shall address their comments to the mayor. All comments shall pertain to village business only. The mayor shall preserve order and decorum and shall decide all questions of order. When addressing the board, those permitted to speak shall confine their remarks to the matter at hand and avoid personal remarks, the impugning of motives, and merely contentious statements. If any person indulges in such remarks or otherwise engages in conduct injurious to the harmony of the board and the meeting, the mayor may immediately terminate the opportunity to speak. This decision is at the discretion of the mayor or upon the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the trustees present. Any person except a member of the board who engages in disorderly conduct during a meeting may be ejected from the meeting upon a motion passed by a majority of the trustees present. The total time for public comments is limited to 30 minutes unless leave is granted by the mayor. If individuals are attending the meeting as a group, a spokesperson for the group should be appointed to speak to avoid repetitive comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So now we're open for public input. If you'd come forward and state your name, please.
My name is Michael Rosenberg. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Village Board. I live next door to the property in question at 1550 West Squire, directly adjacent to Foxdale Park, and I'm here tonight as a homeowner, a neighbor, and most importantly, a father. My children play outside daily and frequently use Foxdale Park, one of the largest and most active parks in all of Addison, which sits directly behind the home proposed for use for the Serenity House. Let me be clear, my concern is not about the individual seeking treatment. I fully support recovery. This is about whether a structured facility like this is appropriate for a quiet residential neighborhood filled with families and young children and centered around a significant public park. From what I understand, Serenity House operates with a rotating staff, outside visitors, and multiple residents, characteristics that significantly change the intensity for use for a single-family home. The expected increase in traffic, parking demand, and questions about oversight raise serious concerns. especially when the home board is a park where kids, including my own, often play freely. In addition, our cul-de-sac is an active space where neighborhood children play every day, including directly in front of the property. The presence of a facility like this introduces the safety and supervision questions that have been adequately addressed. Have not been adequately addressed. It also seems that there's many unknowns that remain about this facility and how it will operate if this moves forward. I'd like to ask the mayor and the council respectively, what regulatory oversight is currently in place and would be put in place? What safety protocols exist to given the direct access to the park? And I do appreciate the addition of police presence since this has been come to light. I've seen a lot of officers, which I do appreciate. Even one has played basketball with my children. Very appreciated. What precedent does this set for how similar facilities may open in the neighborhood setting, potentially moving forward? And finally, why was this potentially kept from the public? When my wife discovered this situation through her own research after the house was set vacant for multiple months, she and a neighbor came to City Hall seeking answers, and instead of transparency, they were met with repeated questions about how they found out about this without any meaningful discussion even beginning. Knowing that you had requests for several months prior to this. Again, this is not about opposition to recovery. It's about zoning, safety, transparency, and community capability. I respectfully ask the mayor and the council to take a closer look before approving anything. And if you have to approve this, maybe consider a CUP, a conditional use permit with strict oversight, or delay this until the community has been fully informed and involved. I thank you for your time and for listening to the concerns and families directly affected by this decision.
A couple comments I'll make, then I will turn it over to our village manager because he's been very involved with it also. There has been a lot of miscommunication. There's been a lot of totally incorrect information being spread. As you know, this was not on the agenda tonight.
Correct.
And there was a petition going around saying, come here because it's on the agenda. Those kind of things cause a lot of dissension and confusion and apprehension in our community. And the village board has been very diligent in what we do and how we do it. We share the same concerns that everyone has for the safety and welfare of our community. The real issue, though, is that most of the regulations that come into play here are federal regulations. And I won't go into detail, but other communities have attempted to block similar developments and have been hit with significant fines and penalties. Hinsdale being one of them, they were hit with a $900,000 because they refused to allow it. They lost in court, and the facility was occupied, and it cost the community $900,000 to learn that the federal government trumps local municipalities in this area. We continue to be very cautious about what's happening. We are in contact with the developer Serenity House, and we have requested a large amount of information. We still don't really know the full extent of what they're asking for, so having any decision at this point is premature, and again, we share the same concerns that you do. In reference to what precedent it starts, Joe, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, sir, for your comments. As the mayor stated, we don't have all the answers. And so I know I've talked to, I think, about 8 to 10 of your neighbors, all great people, too, some here that I see in the crowd here. But I do want to tell you that we don't have the answers for all of you. There are a list of questions that we would like answered that we don't have answered. I understand your concerns, but as the mayor has indicated, there are protected classes not set by this board, but set by the federal government. And I know we did make a post onto social media to try to dispel some of those rumors as well. That is all I have really to say on that. Mayor, would you like me to ask anything else or answer anything else?
Well, I think he brought up the question about what precedent starts, and we already have 3.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We, as to answer your precedent, we actually have 3 other facilities in town operated by the Serenity House.
Are those operated in a residential community such as this?
Yes, sir.
Can you?
I can give you the addresses, yeah, because I heard somebody ask where.
To be transparent, I wasn't expecting any answers today. I know this wasn't on the agenda. I really just wanted to go on record.
For
Well,
sure.
I think it's very important that there's this dialogue where you're getting the right facts and right information,
Right.
and that rumors and hearsay.
I'm not looking for rumors or hearsay. I'm looking for facts, and I think it's got to start it with the board and the mayor.
Sure, and I can answer that for you, sir. 827 South Addison Road, 871 South Addison Road, and 308 South Harvard.
Okay, excuse me, ma'am.
And 308 South Harvard is not on Main Street, that is in a residential neighborhood. I can go on, too, just to dispel other things. We do have the calls for service for the last 3 years at those areas, and nothing of significance, of true significance, stands out to me. You should know that I was your police officer for 20 years in this community, retiring as a deputy chief. So when I say that, when nothing stands out to me as impactful or of a serious nature, that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. And also additional concerns are property values. You've been reading that these can go down by 15 to 20%.
I can't comment to that, but yes.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Sophie.
Come to the microphone, please. Microphone.
Big mouth. I don't need a microphone. My name is Sophie. I live in Westridge. My
Last name,
question-
please.
Pardon?
Last name.
Sperados.
Thank you.
Okay. I live in Westridge. I've been living in Foxdale for 20 years and just moved recently. I've been a resident here. By you saying that there are a few houses that are occupied like that, doesn't make us feel better. Because what I thought when you just said that was, oh God, there's 3 houses there, the 4th on Squire, the 5th over there. You know, we have kids. My kids were brought up, I used our school system. Now I'm a grandmother. I take my grandchildren to the park. We really don't feel comfortable. So we want to know, is there any way that you can direct us or help us or have a meeting for the residents or tell them exactly what's going on? Because when I found out, it was like hearsay. I spoke to the village, a very nice woman, her name was Concelos, and she tried to explain as much as she can. But our answers, our questions are we're scared. We don't want it. We're not being prejudiced against these people, but we just don't want them in our neighborhood. I know that there's a Serenity right across the street from Floor and Decor, and it's beautiful. It's a big building. You go there, there's benches, there's trees. You know, these people need help. But what are they going to do in the neighborhood? It's going to cause us to sell our homes, and I'm in Westridge, so I'm farther away, but it bothers us. So what we're asking is for the village to help us, to direct us on what we can do as residents. Because we really don't know what to do. This has never happened to us before. This is my first village meeting, and it's beautiful, by the way. But, you know, we didn't know what to expect. But we're asking for help and direction from you guys, because we are afraid, and we're residents here from 25 years and up. So do you guys think that we're wrong to be concerned? I know it all started, the petition does not say anything about the meeting today. So we have not brought the amount of people that we can get here. Would that help us?
No,
or cause
not at all.
problems?
It wouldn't help at all, because the bottom line is that the federal government has set the road. So if you really want to do something, I would suggest you talk to your congressmen and women that represent you, because that's at a federal level.
Why is everybody laughing? Are they going to help us?
Pardon?
Are they going to help us? Can they direct us? Why didn't we know about this? I heard it as hearsay. You know, we pay our taxes. We've been here for so many years. Why didn't we know about this even before it happened?
What would you have done about it?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
Maybe get the 800 people that have signed the petition to come here and talk
That
with you.
petition means absolutely nothing.
I know, but we have to start somewhere. We're just little people, you guys, and we're just asking for your help because we don't want it there.
Well, if you're not hearing what we're saying, then there's really no help available.
Okay, and what are you saying? So in other words,
We're saying
we can't
that
do
it's
anything.
beyond municipal government. The decision and the guidance is from the federal government, if you want to.
So,
Sure. What the mayor is saying is that to a great extent, not 100%, but to a great extent, the village's hands are tied with regard to what the village can do. There is federal law in place that says people that have alcohol or drug problems are considered to be disabled. Just like you might see a person walking down the street who has a physical disability. They're considered to be disabled. And because of that, they're protected by the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. If the village says to someone who has a drug or alcohol problem that they cannot move into any particular home in any particular location in the village will, in all likelihood, get sued by the federal government.
That's the problem.
And in all likelihood, lose that lawsuit. So it's not that the mayor or the board or staff doesn't understand what you're saying.
I hope you do.
All the elected officials up here live in the village.
That's the thing. You're
And
not
some
in
of
your
the
house.
staff live in the village.
Could we have,
The problem is,
if anybody has anything...
there's very,
Excuse me. He has the floor.
there's very limited action that the village can take. They have to abide by the law. And so when the mayor is suggesting contact your congressman or congresswoman or your senators, he's saying that not to make a joke,
No, it's not funny.
but to say to you, those are the only people that can change the federal law.
Yeah.
I'm
You're right,
sure
you
there's a
guys are right,
number
too,
of
I
things.
understand. But, so there's nothing that we can do, so now we just wait? Do you have attorneys on this? How does this work?
What will happen is that staff is evaluating the information they've been provided with, and as the manager pointed out, they've asked for some additional information.
Okay.
And once they obtain that information, they're going to try their best to limit what Serenity House is proposing to do there. But they will not, in my opinion, be able to say to Serenity House, you cannot put people in this house, because that would be discrimination. The village would get sued, and in all likelihood, the village would lose. So rather than that, we're trying to figure out what we can do within the confines of the law to be able to do the best we can for the residents of the village. But whether the people out here or people listening like it or not, the fact that you don't like this and you don't want this in a residential neighborhood is beyond the ability of this village board. As I said, I'm sure all the elected officials up here who live in the village of Addison would probably agree with you. They wouldn't necessarily like this next door to them. But that's very different from being able to say that legally we can prohibit that.
Thank you. That answers some of my questions, and I feel that it's not only us, and that you guys agree with us, more or less. Do we know how this runs? What is it exactly? Is it, are they going to have meetings there? Are they going to have visitors? Are they going to be allowed to be with our children or outside? They are human beings. We're not saying anything. But that's what we're concerned with. What is this? Do you guys know exactly what they're going to be doing?
Well, again, we don't have all of the information. Mike, I don't know if you want to address some of this, but at least in terms of your very last comment, will they be outside? I would say yes, people are going to be outside.
I know, it sounds funny, but you guys, these people have problems. And I know that a lot of them probably chose to go to a rehab home so they won't go to jail. Because
That's an assumption you're making that is totally incorrect.
I know it's
They have
hearsay.
gone through a
I know
treatment.
firsthand for myself and my family. I understand. I know. And it hurts me even to be up here. I know. But it is dangerous. And I want you guys to know that we did come here as residents to tell you that we are extremely concerned. I know it's in the federal government's hands. Thank you for taking our questions. If there's anything else that we can do other than the congressman or our senator or whatever, we would really appreciate it. Because we're not comfortable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else
Let me
have
ask you,
comments or
does
questions?
anybody else have a
No, not you. Hey, excuse me. Sit down. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Chris Schaefer, Autumn Trail.
Come up to the microphone, please. It's being recorded, so you do.
Chris Schaefer, Autumn Trail. Kids go to St. Philip's. How many people are you allowing in the house since it's single family?
They have requested 8, but Joe, if you want to.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm a family of 6, and I barely fit in my house, so.
I can answer that question for you,
Sure.
sir. Don't have all that information. What they have said is they have taken the zoning and they've replied it back to us, saying the zoning says 5 to 8. Obviously, they're going to probably, I'm assuming here, because I don't know with certainty, I anticipate they're going to come back and say 8. Now we then have to look at the square footage of the house, the intended use of the house. What are they looking to do? I do know that this is not a halfway house.
Correct.
This is not subject, and there's been a lot of that, this is not subject to a release of a probation or parole, that they would be paroled or probationary released to here and have successful completion. No, that is not the case. What I have been told from Serenity is that these are individuals that have already successfully passed their initial treatment. This would be a female house, all-female house. I do not know the occupants. When we're asking for more clarifying questions, how big are the rooms? You know, from what I'm being
I mean,
told.
we all know how big the rooms are. We all live in the same houses.
But I don't, it's
common sense.
what's the intended use of those rooms? So I know you look at it from a different lens and a different perspective than what we have. Are you going to have a meeting in those rooms that changes the dynamic of said room? So these are questions that Serenity has to answer to us, and then we would look at, okay, how many people could be allowed into that residence? Other things, how many people are going to drive? Parking issues, ingress,
sorry, not to
egress.
cut you off.
No, but I've heard from many of you, and those are questions that I don't have answers to, that we need more specifics. So I don't have an answer. I know that's not what you want to hear either.
Well, since the house was sold, tickets have picked up and backed by us, but selective tickets for parking over sidewalks, just for certain houses. Officer was there the other day, wrote a ticket. I asked him not to for the lady that was sick next door. He didn't care. But yet he proceeded to drive out and let 7 other cars park the same way. It's just kind of weird. We're getting more patrol back there, and we already have more problems. And if parking's a problem, and you have 8 people, and then you have 8 more workers, where are we going to put all those cars? I'm just wondering, where are we going to put all the cars?
I don't know if there's going to be 8 cars.
Well, even if there's 5 cars, we're going to put 5. You can't, because then you're hanging over the sidewalk.
Once we know more, I would obviously echo that.
It's just one problem after the next. We've had no problems back there. In 20-something years I've lived there, we've had nothing but problems back there in the last month. It just goes with the house.
What has changed in the last month?
Well, here the workers feel unsafe, so we have more patrol back there. So now we're paying for an officer to sit in front of this house that we've never had to do that before.
Excuse me.
That's the truth, though. We watched him back. He sat back there for 4 hours. I live right there. I could see him from there. I could see your officer from there. I have a Ring camera.
He's speaking?
Right, I'm just saying, I have a Ring camera. I could time how long he's been sitting back there. It's just, and now we're watching one house because they feel unsafe. That's what the workers told the neighbors. Well, we feel unsafe.
The workers?
The people working inside the house that have spoke to the neighbors. There's more going on than the board knows about. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yes.
Once again, Michael Rosenberg.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Let's let everybody else speak, please, once.
I have a police car in front of my
Okay,
house.
ma'am, step up. Give us your name, please.
Yes, my name is Margaret Leosados. I have a police car every day outside my house. It comes at 3 o'clock, it leaves at 6 o'clock. Sometimes they play with my grandkids and Mike's kids. Every day, I'm on 1525, I have a car right in front of my house. And I have it on camera every day for 2 or 3 hours. It's not right. You're not protecting us, you're protecting them. And that's how I feel.
No.
We have something that's really bad in our neighborhood.
You're entitled to your opinion.
That's how we feel. We feel like they are protecting them against us, so they have a car. Every day in front of my house, I have a police car. It doesn't feel good. It feels bad. I never had that. I've been here in Addison since 1987. Never had a problem.
Mayor, I can answer that a little bit for you. So when all this started coming up, and there was a lot of chatter through social media, some of the comments we were hearing, and a lot of what the mayor is addressing is dispelling a lot of the rumors. And we started getting hit with a lot of rumors about potential protests and things like that nature. So we did put an extra watch. To my knowledge, nobody's residing in that house right now, but we did put an extra watch on the house just to. And I'll be honest with you, we did it to help comfort the neighborhood. And if it's having the opposite effect, we can gladly pull the cars away. But the intention there is to help show some visibility with law enforcement, to help kind of put people at ease a little bit, to show that, yeah, there is no protests, there's nothing to be concerned about. We do have patrol officers kind of going through the neighborhood and making sure everything's okay.
Ma'am, you need to be at the podium, please.
We are worried.
Ma'am, you need to be at the podium, please.
We are worried. I have grandkids, they play outside all day long. I'm worried because they come to my house to play with Mike's kids, and they are worried. We're worried. This is something that it's like a danger in our neighborhood. It's danger. We see danger.
Okay,
And plus, in that little cul-de-sac of Mike's, if you see how the picture is, they can't even park 2 cars. Where are they going to park cars in that little space that they have? Because it's much smaller than my side.
All right, we have explained to you as clear as we can. We don't have all the information nor the details. So for you to start fabricating what-ifs makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay.
So if you want the police to be visible, to protect your neighborhood, we're more than willing to do that. But if you feel that that's offensive and causing a disruption, we'll pull it.
But I don't think it's protecting us. I think it was protecting
Well,
the
you're
workers.
wrong.
I hope so. I hope so.
No, our intention is to protect the neighborhood. We truly do get the concerns. We've read the emails, we've read the comments. We know there's a lot of concern going on, and the idea behind it is, okay, if we didn't think there was any credibility to some of the protesting comments, but you know what? We figured let's put some extra watches in the neighborhood to help try and keep people.
Why wasn't this house, before it was bought, why wasn't it brought to the attention of the board to stop this? So they can buy it somewhere like Addison Road or Fullerton or whatever, in somewhere where it's not a little cul-de-sac.
Okay, ma'am, the way this works is, this is a private transaction between 2 private parties. The village is not involved. If you want to sell your house and I want to buy it from you, I contact you and we work out a mutually agreeable sales price. You want X, I agree to pay you X, and we agree to the transaction. The village doesn't get involved. The village doesn't know about it, and quite honestly, ma'am, let me finish. The village doesn't care. The only time the village gets involved is when you take the deed to Village Hall and you get a transfer stamp, you pay your tax, to record the deed at the county. That's the first and only time the village knows that you are selling your house and I'm buying it from you. So the first and only time the village even knew that whoever owned this home was selling it to anyone is when Serenity House brought the deed to the Village Hall to get their stamp so they could go record the deed. The village doesn't keep track of who sells their house to whom. They don't know if you're selling their house or if I'm buying it or if Serenity House is buying it. The village doesn't know and the village doesn't care. We're not involved in those type of private transactions. And I would like to think you wouldn't want the village to be involved in that.
Yeah, I would.
If you go to, you would, so if when you decide to sell your house next year, 5 years, or 10 years from now, you want the village to be able to look into
They
that
can look at my house.
transaction and decide?
Everything's perfect.
It's not about perfect. That's about Big Brother. That's what you want? You want the government telling you who you can sell your house to?
But you don't understand. The people that sold the house, they didn't even know they were selling to Serenity.
Okay, well, as the mayor said before, I think you need to question that a little bit because...
That's what they're saying.
Well, ma'am, all I can tell you is I've been an attorney for a long, long time. I've done a number of real estate transactions.
Okay.
When you go to sell your property to someone else, there's a written contract that has the name of the buyer on the contract. It's not a blank. It's not, I'm going to sell my house to Mr. and Mrs. Blank or Serenity Blank. There's a name on it. And when you go to the closing, the other side shows up at the closing or their attorney shows up at the closing. And on behalf of those buyers, documents are signed with the name of the buyer. You don't sell it to an unknown person. It's not the way it works. So I don't know what kind of information is out there, but whoever's telling you that they didn't know who they were selling it to, I think you might not be getting the full story.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, folks. I'm Terrence Mastrino. I live on 6th Avenue. A lot of you folks I do know, and congratulations to all the elections. Mr. Moranowitz. I don't have any connection with this whatsoever, but I do see like there's a complete disconnect. So a dear friend of mine who we do spend a lot of holidays with, so we understand where their concerns are. I think the main part that we're having here, or at least the residents, in that particular subdivision, is that just the transparency. I think, and I get it, I totally understand where the village is coming from, but in efforts to dispel those rumors like you were mentioning earlier, I think that's the main thing. And then the other part too, with some of the zonings, I do know from living in town for quite some time that even some of the, putting up a fence, for example, I have to go through a litany of things in order to get some of the approvals done. And is there something, I guess we would be coming to you for help, or at least if I could speak on behalf of these kind folks here, is there something that you could help us out with to maybe get these folks resolution, maybe to give that information where we can get, congressmen, so that these folks can all reach out to them? Because again, I get it. I read out the whole Hinsdale thing. I think they actually lost about $8 million after everything was said and done. So I'm fully aware of the significance behind all that. However, and listen, you guys are all phenomenal, and I know we met before, the three of us. We got to get something, for these. We have to do something for them. We have to. There's just no way around it.
Joe?
Be happy to talk with you. Happy to talk with all of you. We can go back and forth. But I do want to say one thing, and look this up. This is all public information. There was another community that prohibited said use.
Right, Hinsdale, of course.
Absolutely, unequivocally prohibited it.
Right, and they got their butts handed to them.
They lost.
Big time.
And they said that that is discriminatory and you cannot prohibit it, and then had to change their zoning.
Right.
I think everybody needs to understand that point. It was prohibited. And it was told by the federal government, you need to change your zoning because it's discriminatory in nature.
So, Mr. Moranowitz, if you don't mind me asking, though, so for single-family use homes, does that preclude or include? I think that's maybe something that we need to figure out so we could communicate.
In that example that I gave was a single-family home in a residential area.
So even though it's 8 strangers, like the real world, that still would apply?
So whether you like it or not, I don't mean you particularly.
For sure.
Under federal law, the definition of a family is much more expansive than the traditional husband, wife, and 3 kids.
Okay.
Whether you like that or you don't like it or believe in it or don't believe it is irrelevant because that's the law. A family is defined under federal law as just a group of people who are living together. So in effect, again, whether you like it or not, it could be mom and dad and 6 kids living in the house, or 8 strangers living in the house. They are considered a family for federal law. So the way I kind of look at it is residents may not like the 8 strangers living next door to them. I get that.
Right.
I have 4 kids. But instead, if mom and dad and 6 kids moved in next door to you, you and your wife would probably say, this is great. There's 6 kids next door. This is going to be wonderful for our children. We're going to have new friends and we're going to have parties. Unfortunately, The definition of family is so expansive now under federal law that we have to treat both of those examples the same way.
And I think everyone might, and I apologize for speaking on behalf of everyone here, but I'm just trying to be an outsider trying to find a resolution because there's clearly a huge concern here. And I do see that the board shares that same sentiment. It's just, I think we need resources in order to get these folks some of the adequate answers that they need, and all the ambiguity or the questions that they do have as far as, parking arrangements. I know it's already been said and discussed. I mean, again, there's so many violations or ordinances that are inside the community right now. If by chance, I'm giving a hypothetical, I know that's not the greatest thing to answer on something like this, but if there is an abundance of cars or there's an extreme amount of activity that would not comply with the ordinances that are inside the village, is there a recourse, or can the home then be, condemned from that type of usage? Is that like...
Well, again, hypothetically speaking, it would depend on what the violation is. So to use one of your examples, let's say there are more than 4 cars, and I'm just using the example, and I'm not sure if this is correct or not, 2 cars in a garage and 2 cars in a driveway. But there's more than those 4 cars. Right. And those cars are parked on the street overnight. Well, I'm sure that the chief would get a complaint. There's vehicles parked on the street overnight, and he would send an officer out there to issue parking citations. That's what the remedy would be, the same as it would be if you left your car out on the street overnight. At some point, an officer would issue you a citation for overnight parking. That would be the remedy for the overnight parking.
Absolutely, but if there's an abundance of a certain violation of whatever that may be, is there an avenue for the residents to say, listen, we're not happy with this type of behavior on our block, in our neighborhood, and is there probably a proposal for them to come to the village and say, hey, listen, this is too much for us, and the village look into...
Unfortunately, the answer is it depends. Okay. Because it would have to be so egregious and such a violation of the law that the village could take action. And if it's something, in my opinion as a lawyer, that's petty, such as overnight parking, there's nothing the village board is going to be able to do other than authorize.
I didn't want to go with drug usage, but if that's where it becomes, and I'm not saying that this is, and I'm not casting a blanket statement over the types of folks that are moving in there. And I'm going to digress. I don't want to, in case anyone else wants to speak, but if you could just help them, I think that's the best. Instead of all these rumors being out there, if you guys could put on the social media some kind of literature or anything else they could go put on the website so they can reach out to their necessary people that could help them fight it on the state and federal level, I think that would be extremely helpful.
My suggestion to you and everyone else here and everyone else listening is to do what the manager has suggested, which is to contact the village manager's office, contact the community development director who's sitting right next to him. Mike and his assistant Consuelo are going to tell you what you need to know. Look, the village is transparent. There is something known as the Freedom of Information Act. If someone submits a FOIA, we're going to provide you with the records that we have. I have not heard to date anyone who has contacted either Joe or Mike or Consuelo who has been told, we don't want to talk to you, go away. But you need to contact the people in the village and talk to them. You're not going to get your information off of social media. It may be easy, it may be fun, but that's not where you're going to get the real information. So contact the village. They'll be more than happy to talk to you, more than happy to provide you with records if that's what you're looking for. But as Joe already said, they don't have everything yet. That's why nothing has been decided, no decisions have been made.
Is there a timeline before they move in as far as what some of those answers that these folks are looking for?
The village hasn't even approved this yet, as I said. We're still looking for information, so there's no timeline at all.
Do you know when you might have an answer for that, or when there might be a...
Mike, do you even have any idea at this point?
We don't. We have contacted Serenity House. We've had conversation. They provided us some information. We've asked for additional information, so we're back and forth at this point right now.
So is there a timeline of when they might be able to move in, or when that might... And again, I'm just speaking on behalf. I don't know. Again, I don't live in the area.
All right, let me interrupt, because we're just going around in circles.
Okay, I'm not trying to go, but these are some of the...
We don't have the information, so how can we establish a timeline? It's not going to happen until we get the information.
Is there a deadline, though?
No.
There's no deadline. Okay, so it's just open-ended?
And there's nobody in the house. So nothing has changed. Your neighborhood should not have been impacted at all in the last month. It's self-impacted because you've been listening to rumors.
Okay, if there's anyone who wants to speak, you need to come up to the podium, please, and give us your name.
Thank you very much for your time. I wish everyone luck. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Zach Patz. I don't live in the neighborhood. I'm just here showing some support for some of my fellow neighbors. One thing that really jumped out at me is that you guys mentioned that there's already 3 homes in Addison. My question to you is, at what point is there going to be 10 or 12 or 5? At what point does the Addison Village, the Village of Addison, get to say that's enough? Is there a point? Why also is the state or the federal government choosing to put these in Addison? Is there a benefit to Addison in any way?
Let me interrupt because, again, you guys go off on tangents that are not, the federal government is not choosing to put a house in Addison. The owner of the house, who is a neighbor of yours, chose to sell that house to Serenity House. So if there's a bad guy in this entire scenario, it's the seller.
So
Sir, give me one second. I want to answer your question before. Joe, do you want to address the question of homes in other communities?
Yes,
that's not just Addison?
Throughout DuPage County, I know we don't care, but to answer your question, sir, they're in Bloomingdale, they're in Woodridge, they're in Wheaton, St. Charles. They are all over. They're in extremely affluent areas, middle-class areas, and I put DuPage as pretty affluent within the nation. We also have 5 Ray Graham homes within Addison. Those are for special needs. And I think most of the people that I've talked to understand that and say that's a good thing.
I agree.
And unfortunately, as we've said here, the federal government puts both of those classes, special needs, under the ADA.
So I guess what I'm asking is, why is Serenity choosing
I couldn't answer
Addison?
That for you. I couldn't answer that for you in a residential neighborhood. It's a good question that you have, especially when they have something on their facility on Rowling Road. It's a good question, but at this point, unfortunately, this is the unfortunate answer to your question. There's no basis to answer that because the sale has gone through. They've purchased the home. It's a protected right of theirs with a protected class, and they can operate. Now, how many people, like we said, we don't know. I don't know so many questions that you all have. I don't know, and I don't mean to upset you all, but I don't have those answers, and I want to answer them. And that's why we try to be proactive and say, social media, there's nothing to answer. You're going to walk away more upset. But we're trying to do our best. If this was to go through, and which the board has not made any action.
If what was supposed to go through, excuse me?
If the Serenity House, because nothing has been approved.
As in what?
Your neighbors.
Like the rent? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
What needs to be approved? The amount of tenants?
No,
or?
when you're all asking how many people, what's this going to be used for, all that stuff, their intended use.
I got you.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a female home. I do know that. It's Serenity. I know what Serenity is about. The question at hand, though, is, oh my gosh, how could you all approve this? Nothing's been approved. Nobody's been moved in. I think that's very important. Well, and so Serenity is not the happiest with me either right now.
One more question. Is there a benefit to the Village of Addison for allowing, or for?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
Zero. I have heard from people that we get cash. I heard that there is a kickback. I've heard that this is a halfway house. And unfortunately, I respect your question that you're asking there. The fallacy of rumors and statements going on E-Group is, I don't even have an answer to it. I'm telling you, the Village of Addison gets nothing in return. Zero.
Well, thank you, because that clarifies a lot for a lot of people sitting here, I think.
Good question.
Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Patty Lolagos. I'm on Addison, or on Autumn Trail.
If I could just get clarification as far, and first, I am not on social media, so today's been an eye-opener to hear that a lot of people have received incorrect information. I just found out about this the other day. I'm not a social media person, so please don't direct anything against me for that. I think my question is, what is the definition of a single-family home? When you're telling us that people living together are a family, considered a family, things have changed, does that also mean that I could rent my house out to tenants and have multiple people living in my home? We're not a family, but it sounds like you can, neither are the people for Serenity House a true family. They're not related. So I've been in Addison since 1974. There was a time where people living next door to me had what I think were probably migrant workers coming in at night, sleeping there, rolling up their bed packs, and they'd be gone during the day and come back again. In the winter, they were gone. So that was a concern in that neighborhood. Now I'm in Foxdale. But I didn't think that we could have people, that you could have, if you had a finished basement, I didn't think you could have people living in your basement or rent out your home. So the idea of family, single-family home, sounds like it's changed. Is that true?
Well, I think what you're describing is a couple of different scenarios. I mean, completely apples and oranges. I mean, if you have, well, first of all, you can't have people living in a basement sleeping on a mattress unless it meets certain building code requirements, which Mike would be much more conversant with than me. We have a rental housing program in the village, which is a very robust program, which checks on things like that. But what I was describing before is a situation where you have a number of unrelated by blood or marriage people that are living together for a specific reason, a specific purpose, not just some people that might be living there for a couple days or a couple of months because they're working jobs and they just need a place to sleep at night. I don't think that would be meet the definition of a family. Here we have a situation with Serenity House, which, as I understand it, people live there for a minimum, I believe, of 3 months and a maximum of maybe a year and a half or something like that to 2 years. So they meet, at least in my opinion, that definition. So it's a little bit different. And as I said, you know, I'm a lot older than you are.
I doubt it.
You know, the definition of family has changed over the years, for good or for bad. And what most people consider to be a family is a little bit different than what federal law actually says it is.
Because
so it's not a question of whether we like it or not. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think that's part of the thing is that we have this umbrella of this is a single-family home. You know, whether a grandparent lives there, aunts or uncles, it's relatives. So that's hard to get past.
But the zoning is trumped by federal regulations.
I understand. And I did see there was an article in yesterday's Tribune about the Holiday Inn in Itasca that a judge threw out that federal judgment.
Well, that's
different because it's a hotel, right?
That's a very similar type situation. It's not the same as a Serenity House, but you have a situation there where a group similar to Serenity wanted to buy that hotel. They, in fact, bought it in order to put people that need help into that hotel. Itasca went through a number of hearings and finally denied it. And guess what? They've been sued in federal court, and who knows how that case is going to end up.
So did you see the article yesterday?
I saw the article, but all that judge's decision did was not to allow the Department of Justice to intervene in the case. It didn't dismiss the lawsuit. It didn't find for or against the Village of Itasca. It simply said the Department of Justice couldn't intervene in the lawsuit. So the lawsuit's still proceeding. It's still Haymarket versus the Village of Itasca in federal court, and it's brought under statutes which, if the village loses, they're going to be liable for attorney's fees.
The interesting thing in the paragraph almost at the end of that article was exactly what you said, though, that someone with, with drug problems or alcohol issues is listed as a disability. So my final question is, it's probably premature, but would Serenity House be open to talking to us? So maybe they can alleviate some of our fears, answer some of our questions. If they've got homes already in the town, maybe they can state to us directly what their intention is, how much influence these people may have in the park or in our area. And
well, my suggestion again is for you and anyone else in the audience or anyone who's listening is to contact the village manager or the community development director and express to them your concerns, your questions, what it is you're looking for, because they're really the persons who can be the conduit between you and Serenity House. I don't think any of us sitting up here have any idea what Serenity House would or would not do with regard to that request, but I think the way to find that out is to talk to the village officials who are in touch with them so that they can bring your concerns to Serenity House and see where you can go with it.
Exactly.
What I would suggest,
it may be premature, but maybe they'd be open to a meeting.
what I would suggest is you name 1 or 2 people from your area to be spokespersons, and we will try to arrange a conference with village staff, with Serenity House and 2 representatives.
That's a good point. Thank you for that.
To be able to sort out, and this is very emotional for everyone.
Of course.
I think, when there's a change or a potential change that apparently threatens the safety or security, everybody becomes very reactive to that.
I think we'd like to
But
understand.
I want to kind of go into, let's think of this logically.
Right.
We, the village, get absolutely nothing from Serenity House being there or not being there. So why would we alienate residents who are active in our community and have a say in our community as far as what happens? Why would we alienate them?
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
don't
make
know
any
what
sense.
was said on social media. Again,
So-
I'm not.
But that's my point, is
Yeah.
that we're not adversarial. We're not at odds with our residents.
Right.
We're trying to address the issue, find out what really is going on, and possibly minimize the impact if it goes forward.
I guess I'd like to know their mindset. I mean, it's more of, like you said, DuPage is more of an affluent area. I'd like to know why they're spending over $500,000 in a home in a residential area when a rehab center seems like it would be better off in an unincorporated area, maybe a farming area, something where people.
The logic is to get them assimilated back into society.
Huh. Okay.
They've gone through the treatment process. This is now getting them ready to rejoin society.
Right, and I understand that, and that's what I'm saying. It might be beneficial to have a dialogue with them when the time is appropriate, but, yeah, well, thank you very much for your time.
All right, any other?
Good evening. I've been a resident for about 40 years now here in Addison, and I'm just wondering now, I'm hearing that there's...
Name, please.
Joe Giacconi. There's 4 places already.
3.
Now, do you have any idea how many people they have, or is anybody keeping an eye on to make sure, or we don't have no say-so because it's federally government? To make sure they're following, say they're going to have 8 people. Okay, they have 8 people.
Well, I think, I don't know if we've got that information, but I think looking at the calls to service, as Joe said, there was 1 significant call over 3 years.
That's correct. Nice to see you again, Joe.
Yeah, I spoke with Joe, but I'm just wondering, you told me what the problems were there and everything, and they don't seem big. Basically fire alarm, smoke alarm going off. But how about when they're there for 3 or 4 months, is my understanding, that who's keeping an eye on them? And if they don't like 6 or 8 or 10 come in, and if nobody's keeping an eye, who knows how many people are in these? Do you know how many people are in them buildings that are?
Good question. Good question,
now?
Joe. And yes, they always have a staffer there as well. That's 24/7. That takes upon that responsibility and that accountability. And then if something were to get egregious, we would look at that through calls for service and through the chief of police, and we would take the appropriate measures. But at this point, as I said earlier, it hasn't risen to, and I even shared it with you, right? I mean, we went over the calls for service. I think there were 10 alarms and one theft. They were minimal, and that was over 3 years. So if it rose to that level, we'd look into it.
But how about overpopulation as far as?
Oh yeah, sure. We address.
Would you even know?
No, we would know, and we would have.
How would you know though? If
sure, we have an inspection program. Go ahead.
Yeah, we would, basically, we get complaints. We get service requests. If there's overcrowding in any way, whether it's a single-family home in your subdivision, whether it's, noise, whatever it might be, we get calls, and then we investigate those calls. We go into the house, we look at this, especially if it's an overcrowding issue. And then we would go back to Serenity House in that case, and we'd hold them responsible for that.
Okay, when I came to visit you, Joe, I don't remember if we discussed it thoroughly, but as far as them doing work in the building now.
Correct. We have
without permits, or are they?
No, certain
I've never
things-
seen one posted. I drove right past it. I don't see anything posted in the window, which I thought we're supposed to do.
Sure, we have service requests towards them because they are the owner of the property and they have to upkeep the property. So that's a good thing. I know the pool is coming down, and Mike, you can talk to the permits.
Yeah.
So they had insulation work going on. I seen the big blower truck
Correct.
out there or whatever, but
They did, and the reason why is because they had a raccoon problem in the attic. So from what we understand, and we had our inspectors go in and take a look at it, the house was vacant for a while, raccoons got into the attic, incredible amount of feces and urine that saturated the insulation in the attic area. That was removed. They did that on their own. Obviously, it smells in there. They're cleaning it up is really what they're doing. They realize that they need permits for any work that may be required, whether it's a sprinkler system or a fire alarm system, or if they want to make any modifications structurally to the house, or if they want to remove and replace the deck. Or replace their driveway. They understand that they need permits. They'll have to go through that approval process before they can start any work. The work that's being done in there now is merely cleanup.
okay, they could do that without having to apply for a permit, I guess.
They don't need a permit to clean their house, no.
Okay.
And it's unoccupiable too, right at this point. So nobody's living in the house.
They need to get occupancy before anything.
Correct.
And that's going to come from the village,
Correct.
not the federal government.
No.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain one more if there is any more questions or comments to be made. Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vicky Callas, and I live on Justin Court, Kitty Corner from Squire. I have a question for the lawyer. The Serenity Home is totally a strange thing to us. We're clueless what it means. My simple question is this. Those people who they will be the occupants of that Serenity Home, where they come from. They have been jailed, they have been arrested, the judge appoint them to go and have a rehab programs. How criminal is the criminal here? I'm clueless, so I'm coming to you, since you said you have a lot of experience, and I want to investigate when an arrest has been made. My daughter is a lawyer. I know the police arrest them, put them to DuPage County. So where does these people come from?
My understanding is that none of these people have a criminal, well, I shouldn't say that they don't have a criminal background. None of them are there due to criminal cases. They're there because they've completed some type of substance abuse program, and they are now transitioning back into the community. As I think the manager mentioned earlier, they are not there because of a criminal case where a judge gave them probation or sentenced them to a halfway house. So they're not there because of criminal activity. They're there because they have a substance abuse problem. They've gone through their initial program, and this is the next step to being fully integrated into the community.
Thank you, sir, but I have this question. Who determines that decision? A judge from DuPage County? A program with private sectors? Who's judging that? Who appoints this individual? You mentioned we might have 8, 4, 6. Is the Village of Addison allows employees to be working in a private residence home? That means I can turn my house to business. I can come to you and say, hey, I just decided to open a Serenity House. Who allows to, because I know my next door neighbors, they run a landscaping business. We call the village, and the village has been proactive.
Ma'am, you've asked 3 or 4 questions already, so which one do you want me to answer?
All of them.
Okay, well, why don't you give me an opportunity?
Let's start from the,
Why don't you give me an opportunity to answer a question before you keep going?
Of course, let's start. Question number 1, where do these people come from? They have been arrested? Answer my question.
Thank you. Where do they come from? I can't answer that question. They are people that go through. Ma'am, making faces at me isn't going to help anything.
But we're talking taxpayers here. We're talking taxpayers. We elected everybody to protect the residents. And let me tell you, excuse me.
Would you like me to answer your question, or do you just want to talk?
Would you please listen to me for 2 minutes?
I will ask you to sit down.
Okay, that's fine. I'm listening.
These are people that have completed a substance abuse program and are then at Serenity House in order to transition back into the real world, so to speak. So my assumption is, without knowing with certainty, is that Serenity House decides what people they will accept into their programs in order to place into these homes. All I can tell you is this is not being ordered by a judge. It's not because these people are there because of a criminal case.
Okay, thank you for that answer. So who decides who's going to be in the Serenity House if it's not a judge, if it's not DuPage County?
I just answered that question. I'll repeat myself. Serenity House decides who is going to enter their programs and whether they'll be placed into one of their homes.
Oh, it's funded by who? Which program? Who funds Serenity House?
Serenity House, my understanding, is a not-for-profit corporation. So they raise their money however they raise their money, be it donors or grants or bake sales. You'd have to ask them.
Okay, so it's a private sector.
That's correct. It has nothing to do with the Village of Addison.
Oh, no, thank you for clarifying that. And the second question, it was about like employees working in a private home?
Village of Addison employees working in a private home?
No, sir.
Is that what you're asking?
If I decide my home, can I run business out of my house?
It depends. Certain businesses can be run out of a home. Many cannot.
Sure. Can I have a catalog of that? Can I have who can run business out of their home?
Well, I can't give you that list as I sit here tonight, but there are certain businesses that can be run out of a home. For instance, professional businesses, such as a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. But I couldn't give you an exhaustive list as I sit here tonight.
I'll be very happy. I'll give you my phone number. You can send them to me, email them to me.
Sure.
Thank you. That's my point for everybody.
All right, we've exceeded the half an hour. I will take one more, sir. And this will be the last one.
My name is Kuzam Punawala. I live in the cul-de-sac. I have a question for either Your Honor, the mayor, or David. But I want you to answer very, very honestly. If you promise me that, I will be happy. My question is very simple. Do you promise me to give me an honest answer?
Are you implying that I would lie to you?
No, I want to be sure that you give me an honest answer.
Of course, I will give you an honest answer.
Okay, all right.
I do take exception to that question.
So my question is this: if the house next to yours is on sale, and you come to know that Serenity is buying that, what would you do?
I talked to my neighbor that was selling the house.
Thank you. And that was the honest answer, right?
Yep. All right, do we want to go on at all?
Well, I guess this is the guy who spoke before. So
You've already spoken, I believe, haven't you?
No,
Okay.
that's good. Okay.
All right, fine.
My name is Bill Popowski. I'm a resident in the area. I'm like within the way the crow flies, about 500 feet away. I want to find out with this village meeting for this Serenity House thing, how are we going to be notified of the meeting? Is there going to be like
If there's a public meeting about this, the residents in the area are all notified. Do you want to explain the process?
Yes. Public hearings require notification. Notice is sent out to all residents within 300 feet of the property in question, and they'll be
400
notified.
feet, you're not going to do it, right?
Pardon me?
Why don't we have a thing for the independent newspaper to put it in there for telling when this meeting's going to happen? So everybody can see this, as
Yeah,
opposed to just within 300 feet?
Yeah, there's a legal notice that's posted in the paper as well.
Okay. We going to know when?
Public hearings are only required when there is a required public hearing, meaning there's a need for it. For example, let's say Serenity House came in and they were looking for a variation to our zoning code. In other words, it wasn't listed as a permitted use in our zoning code. They could apply for a variation. If that was the case, we would have to send out a legal notice in the paper and send out notification to all the residents within 300 feet. At this time, we haven't determined if a public hearing is even required yet based on our zoning code.
So anyway, is there going to be like a sign in front to let everybody know that there's going to be a notice for this thing to go on?
There would be a sign posted on the property.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But again, to Mike's point, that's only if a public hearing is required. And he just said a moment ago, he doesn't even know if that's the case yet.
All right, we're going to call this to an end. I do want to basically tell you, and I'm telling the truth for those who, we're all citizens and residents of this community. We want what's best for the community. We understand the issues, the concerns, and we will work to do whatever we can to, if not eliminate it, make it as tolerable and as safe as possible. Our hands are tied considerably by federal regulations, but we are all on the same side as far as what's best for our community. So again, I would please urge you, don't read e-group, don't listen to things that you see or hear on Facebook. Half of it is bogus, the other half is made up. So there's very little truth to what you read and hear on the internet. You have contacts in the village. We will share whatever information we have with you and do the best to keep you informed. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.